year to year. I want to ask you, what do you think has caused this offensive surge?
I don't know if you heard this rumor, but
Welcome back to Softball Speakeasy episode 3. And boy, do we have a good episode for you. We'll talk Duke's 4-0 weekend in Miami, the absolute scoring parade that was Clearwater, Florida. We'll continue our no dumb question segment. And finally, we'll answer some very interesting listener questions at the end of the show. If you're new here, my name is Raine Wilson, and I'm a former Duke softball player turned analyst and broadcaster.
and I'm Kelly Torres, current catcher on Duke's softball team.
Softball Speakeasy is a podcast that will go behind the curtain and give you an inside look into Duke's 2024 campaign. We'll be following storylines throughout the college softball season, and we'll aim to give you next level access into what it's like to play college softball at the Division I level. And keep your eye out for the bonus episode we just shot with Peyton St. George and Caroline Jacobson, both professional softball players with Athletes Unlimited. That will come out in the next couple of weeks. To make sure you don't miss that, follow us at SB Speakeasy. New episodes every Wednesday. So Kelly, what a great week Duke has had. I mean, 5-0 in the entire week. You have a great midweek matchup against North Dakota State, and you hit 3 grand slams in that game, scored 18 runs. Just take me through that game.
Yeah, that game was electric, let me tell you. First inning, 11 runs, unheard of. At least in my career, unheard of. Bases loaded, I came up to bat. Like you said, I hit my first ever grand salami.
Woo woo!
It was oppo. I saw outside pitch. I was like, she. I was like, let me just swing as hard as I could right now. Oppo taco ended up being grand slam, but then Anna comes back, and this is now her second at bat of the inning. The bases loaded again. It hits another grand slam, and we were just like, whoa. Like dugout was going insane. Like 2 grand slams in one inning, let alone 11 runs in that inning. It was a very fun game to be a part of. And then later in that game, Anna comes back up again with bases loaded. I would have walked her. I'm sorry. If you ever see, just look at Anna on deck. Anna swinging a bat on deck just scares me.
Yeah.
Anna comes back up, hits another grand slam. So she had 2 in one game.
Wow. I mean, your first grand slam, are you kind of like, come on, Anna? Like, can't you have an off night? Like, you gotta hit, you hit 1. I'm like, okay, but you hit 2.
I know. And then there was this crazy stat that came out. Not only was it 2 grand slams, it was also like 100th RBI, 100th hit, 100 runs scored. Yes. I was just like, yeah, Anna. But then I was like, that was also my first grand slam.
Yeah, congratulations on the first grand slam. That is absolutely epic. Yeah. And you took that offense into the weekend. You all went down to Miami, which is where you're from. You went 4-0. Most games don't look competitive based on the box score, but I know the game against Rutgers was close for nearly the entire game. So can you take me through the Rutgers game?
Rutgers pitcher, it was lights out. She was a transfer from LSU, had this nasty drop in that was really getting us. And like you said, the box score doesn't really show. It was 4-1 at the end. And we really had to use our other tools, which was fun to see. We did some short game stuff later in the 7th inning. And it was really fun to see how we just had calm confidence. We didn't have the highs. We didn't have the lows. We just kind of stayed constant, and that helped us come out in the 7th inning and win.
Yeah, did you all have any, I don't want to say come to Jesus moments in the game where like coach brings the team to the side of the dugout and is like, yo, we're down 1 run? Like, did y'all have that moment in the game that you turn things around, or was just, hey, like, trust the process?
Yeah, I think when we have those come to Jesus moments, when we're all like, we get in a little meeting, we're like, we need to work, I think that makes us all stressed. Like, we get really tight. This is like our thing. We like tighten up with our fists, and we need to remember to breathe and let go. And I think the fact that we didn't have that, and that we're just like, let's keep doing us and it will come, really helped us.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's not like at any point in the game you're not trying. Like, every time you come in from defense, everyone gets together, communicates about, you know, what you saw. But it's a little different team to team what you talk about when you come off the field. Can you describe what you all kind of talk about when you get 3 outs, you're about to get into the dugout and you have a little kind of meeting?
Let's say 3 outs just happened. We're coming off defense. First thing that happens is we're all giving each other high fives. High fives, high fives, high fives. We come back in, and then it's probably D, let's see, me, someone makes a joke. We're all like, "Hey girls," like in a really weird voice. And we're just like we're just like absolute fools. And then we just have little things like push one or let's get the
Yeah,
bats hot, let's compete. We kind of have like a focus word, and that'll be our like, let's say it's compete. We want competitive at bats. We don't care if we're getting outs. We want them hard on the ground. We don't want fly pop ups in the infield.
right.
So I think that's our thing is like, what's our focus? And let's put all of our effort into that.
Is there ever moments that I don't want to say you all get fired up for each other, but that sort of
Hmm.
intense, like not just the normal routine, like average meeting before the dugout, but that those more intense moments? Do you all have those?
Yes, we definitely do. I don't think it came out this last weekend. I
Yeah,
think when it's like high emotions, like a game against Oklahoma, we definitely
yeah.
had one of those moments where just like all fired up. Emotions are on, 100% at this time.
Yeah. And I know it was a special weekend for you for a number of reasons. You offensively played amazing, defensively played amazing as well, but you also went home. So talk about being
Hmm.
home, talk about seeing the cavalry in the stands rooting for you. Talk about that.
Well, it was beautiful rain. Like looking up in the stands and seeing my 8U coach, she flew in trainers throughout the years, all my like friends' parents who had to take me to camps or take me to tournaments. I couldn't do it without any of them. And it's cool when I like watched the home run again or the grand slam. I've been working and training for that hit for that moment for so long, and I it's not even like I can credit myself. It's like everyone got me to that moment. My trainer, my coach in 8U who taught me how to throw the ball got me to this moment. I'm getting goosebumps right now. It was
Me
so
too. Me
full
too.
circle.
Yeah, absolutely. Because people outside of athletics, especially outside of college athletics, they might not understand that it takes a
It
village
does.
to send someone to a Division 1 program or any program actually.
Mhm.
It takes parents dedicating hours and hours to take you to this place, travel coaches who invest their time. And so to see your village, I know it wasn't even close to everybody in that village,
Yeah.
but to see part of your village in the stands and for you to perform the way you did, I'm getting emotional even thinking about it. I'm sure you're
Mhm.
as emotional as I am, if not more.
I know. When I hit the home run against Rutgers, my grandpa before the game was like, "Hit the home run for me," because he's a Hispanic, so that's how he would say
Yeah.
it. And then when I was rounding third and I see them, I was like, "De para
Oh
ti, grandpa,
man.
para ti." That's what I was screaming.
Oh,
You
that's
know.
amazing, dude. Your family and all your entire village should be so proud of you
They're
too.
crazy,
I
Rain. They
mean,
they ordered shirts. So my dad, I made like I do a little bit of graphics, KT8 designs, if you guys anyone want logos,
shout
but
out.
shout out. I made a like a little graphic, sent it to my dad, and there's this running joke in my village, like you said, about that's my daughter. My dad, since I was 8 years old, if anyone did good on the team, whether it was Janai, Kristen, like any of my fellow teammates, he'd scream, "That's my daughter." So he had like 20 daughters on the damn team because everyone was his daughter. And so the back of the shirt said, "That's my daughter." And it was so funny because everyone who pulled up, like my friends pulled up, coaches, anyone was wearing a shirt that said, "That's my daughter" on the back. So shout out to all of my moms and dads out there who came and supported. It's very nice.
That's amazing. And not only do they just there to support you, even if say you weren't playing, I know they would be there supporting you
Hmm.
anyway. But not only did you play, but you played pretty well. And in fact, knock on wood, you're leading the team in average, batting 500 on the year. That is my co-host Kelly Torres batting 500 on the year. And another thing too is I want to bring up
Bring it up.
is I know you have been told that you're a small catcher.
Oh,
I
yes.
know maybe someone's told you you're too small. What do you have to say to the catchers, the young catchers out there, the young players out there that people are telling them they're too small?
There is no such thing. I love softball
Mhm.
because it's not like basketball where you need to be 6 foot and like you kind of actually have to. Like in softball, it's the fight that's inside the dog. You can be a chihuahua. Those chihuahuas they're feisty. All right. Be a chihuahua if you're small. Like if you're going up there with fire, you're just gonna be that little rascal. I'm gonna be a hard out. That's kind of my goal this year, and I hope to stick to it.
And I also want to bring you back to about a week before the season. You had hurt your foot a
Hmm.
very recently. We're at the scrimmage, and I want to get real here because I think this is a great lesson for any young player out there or any human being out there. You hit that adversity right before, your final season, the one season that you really want to show out for, and you were nervous, you were anxious, you weren't yourself even during your at bats. You had fine at bats, but you came in the dugout. We had a conversation like, "Oh, well, I'm not feeling great. Like, what did you see?" And then from that anxiety, I know you pulled it together,
Mm-hmm.
and to see where you are now, to be batting 500 to start the year, but talk about the transition from being anxious, uncertain to then where you are now.
So, like you said, that foot injury, that was scary. I get hit by balls all the time. I mean, you're a catcher, you get hit 24/7. It's kind of the job. So, it was before practice, I was doing machine work, hit myself in the foot. Then I continued to go to practice because I'm like, season's in 5 days. I need to grind now. There's no time to take a day off. And so I practiced on that foot and the adrenaline was high. So it hurt, but I was like, I was putting weight on it. And then they took me out of practice after I was like wobbling to a pass ball. And they're like,
Right.
Kelly, what are you doing? Go to the treatment room. And I can't put weight on it afterwards. I was so scared. I was frightened. Like you said, I had
Yeah.
so much anxiety. And then 2 days later, scrimmage happens, still not okay. I was just praying, honestly. I was praying. I was doing all my recovery. I was walking it on it as best as I could, just hoping that it will be okay when seasons comes. Season came, and I'm glad I trusted that process. I'm glad I didn't take the day off. Honestly, I should have maybe, but I'm glad I didn't because it was another day of just reps and showing that I can show up even if I wasn't 100%.
Absolutely. And I think it's a good testament to young players out there that you just have to stick to the process. And that doesn't mean that you will end up batting 500 and leading a top five team offensively. That does not mean that. But you have to put the work in to
Mhm.
even allow yourself the opportunity to be in that position, which you did. For young players out there, just because you're anxious, just because you're hurt, just because you have doubts, does not mean you won't be successful. It doesn't mean you will either, but it doesn't mean you won't. So just stick to the process,
Yes.
and good things happen when you do that.
And the one thing you can't control is time, right? So it's
Yeah,
like time, my foot needed time to get to where you want to be. It's going to take time and you can't control that. So you just need to every day stick to the process and it'll come.
absolutely. And not only did you have a great weekend with the bat and with that foot, but you also were a part of a battery this weekend that absolutely crushed it. One
Mm.
run given up through 5 games. Can you talk about the mindset of the pitching staff right now and sort of what you saw from them this past week?
Yeah, it was a very great collective win. I really saw the pitching staff work together. Sophie had a lot of innings. Danny had a lot of innings. Lily coming in, Cass and Jayla. I mean, all five were used. And it's fun when that happens because they're so different. So I'm like, I want this season to pan out in the way that all five are being used because I think that's going to just bring us so much further in the end of the year.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think all of them really complement each other very
Mm-hmm.
well. On the other side of things, across softball, the pitchers didn't have as good of a week as your staff did. Let's
Yes.
talk a little bit about the hitting parade that was in Clearwater and the football scores. I'm going to read out some scores. And I know you were busy playing all weekend, but I was busy watching a lot of these games. And it was an offensive show. LSU Northwestern 13-12, UCLA FSU 14-10, Minnesota Georgia Tech 12 to
Crazy.
11, Stanford Georgia Tech 15 to 7, UCF Wisconsin 21 to 9, Georgia FSU 20 to 10. And I know there was a photo circulating on X about the different amount of runs year to year. 2020 to 2023, right around an average for the Thursday and Friday games, was in the 170s. 2024, Thursday, Friday games, same amount of games, 276 runs scored. So I
Crazy.
want to ask you, what do you think has caused this offensive surge?
Well, I have a couple theories. One is pitching staff is very young across the board.
Mm-hmm.
We see a lot of fifth year COVID seniors that programs rode on for so long. Now they're graduated. And honestly, the rest of their pitchers didn't have enough innings, enough experience. And now we kind of see this inexperienced pitching staff. And the hitters didn't take a day off. The hitters have been hitting. So we see a little shift. It's not 50-50 right now. It could be like hitters are up here, pitching is a little bit lower. My other theory is that the softball I don't know if you heard this rumor,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
softballs are changed this year. And there's a
Ooh,
little
yes.
rumor in the grapevine that at the Clearwater Invitational, they weren't using the new softballs. So the softballs that they were using were hard. They were the ones from last year, and they're able to fly. They're popping off the bat. That could be it.
And I can read the rule. So the brand new rule says to standardize ball specifications with NFHS and USA softball to a maximum compression of 275 to 375 pounds, required implementation by January 1st, 2024.
Hmm.
So to your point, yeah, the balls are supposed to be to that specification this year. And there's the rumor going around that Clearwater had the old ones. So
Yeah. Even then, that's still
they doesn't
crazy.
match up, right? Because
Yeah.
the years before they scored
Exactly.
less. Now this year,
Exactly.
but I agree 100% about the pitching staffs. When you have people like Catherine Sandercock leave, Megan Framo leave,
Mhm.
and a bunch others, you're going to leave a vacuum in your pitching staff. And I also think the offenses are getting better. So we'll see. But that was, I mean, what a wild weekend in Clearwater, and so many home runs. I know pitchers' necks were hurting. I was like, phew,
No, I
phew.
haven't seen 230 plus games in a very long time. That's
Yeah.
crazy amount of runs scored in a softball game.
But speaking of Clearwater 2024 and the level of access to our sport here in February, which is an amazing thing to have Clearwater be on ESPN, SEC Network, Longhorn Network in February is amazing for our sport. And it's also amazing for people who might not know our sport, which brings us to our next segment, No Dumb Questions. So these are the questions that the average person who doesn't know the sport of softball might be wondering when they're watching the game. So I have to ask you one, Kelly, that I heard this past weekend, and it is, does everyone have to wear visors?
No, especially, I mean, my
No.
position, you will never see me in a visor. Maybe we can, like, I don't know, duct tape, maybe hot glue a little visor on my mask out there. But also, we played FIU this past weekend, and their shortstop was wearing a baseball cap. So
Yeah.
that's rare. That can happen though. It's not a rule. Everyone just thinks it's cute to wear visors, and you can kind of see your game day hair.
Yeah, you don't have to wear visors unless you are on a team that you have to wear visors, which was, I believe, my freshman year at JMU, we had to wear visors, but I've
Ah,
always been a visor girl. I've always loved them.
oh, visor girl.
Don't want my dome getting
Well,
red.
that's why
That's for
you do the
sure.
slick back. You kind of cover a little bit of the forehead.
No, you, girl, have you seen my hair on game day? Like, my hair is put up. Another thing to note, actually, this kind of goes into the next question.
Okay.
Why are there so many different types of braids?
You want to stick out. That's my answer. You kind of
Yeah,
want to stick out. Like I did cornrows over in Mexico. I don't know if you saw. It was
I
actually in our
did.
last episode. Or you do the two French braids. I'm a big fan of the bubble because I have a big ponytail, so the bubbles look
Hmm.
good. You just kind of want to spice it up.
Yeah, and I was explaining it's a way to express yourself. And I
It
was also
is.
explaining for people not like involved in the game to at this like extent, it's like in the locker room, like for male coaches out there, maybe there's always like a way that people's hair is braided. For example, Kyla Morris, shout out Kyla Morris, would braid a good
Camo.
8, 9 girls' hair
Oh
before the
my God.
game.
Yes. It's Lily Walker this year. Like you need to book an appointment. Like I am asking Lily to do my hair well in advance. Like it is breakfast. And I'm like, Lily, let me get on that list so I can have my hair done prior to the meeting.
And at the end of the season, girls start getting really superstitious
Oh
about
my
who
God.
does their hair
Mm-hmm.
and when and like how
I
they do their hair. So it's a whole thing. One thing I know, no one ever asked me to do their hair. There's
no.
always the token lesbian that doesn't do hair. And that's
Yes.
me.
Yes, Rain. I will never come to you for hair. Let's just put that out there.
Listen, I do a standard braid. I like a standard braid, but also just throw my hair out, put a visor on, and that works really well. But this next question is, what is the black stuff under the eyes?
The black stuff under the eyes. Oh, Duke softball doesn't really do eye black. Now that I'm thinking about it, we should.
Yeah, when I was there, I wore it all the time. I was like obsessed with it. But I think it's like out of style. And I had this thought today where I was like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna look back at pictures and you're gonna be able to date me. You're gonna be like, oh, she played then when they were like wearing eye black."
Yeah.
Because like I haven't seen it much this year at all.
You know what? Should we bring it back? Should we bring back
I
the
think you
eye
should bring
black?
back. I also think Michaela Edenfield at FSU.
Oh,
She's
yes.
changing the game with the makeup.
She really is, and it started with just eyeshadow, and now it's like full-blown face.
So cool. It's
Yeah.
so
I
cool.
wonder how
It's
long that
beautiful.
takes. Like, you have the meeting like 2.5 hours before the game. No, not even 3 hours, and you want to get ready an hour before. So that's 4 hours before the game that you're getting ready.
Mhm.
I wonder when she starts her process so she's able to do that.
That actually leads us to the next question, which is perfectly timed. Well done, my co-host Kelly Torres. It is, why do you have to get to the field so early?
Ah, honestly, I want the answer to this. I mean, we warm up, then we have BP, then we have lines, then the other team has lines. Somewhere in between there, you have to throw, you have to do your dailies, have your team powwow. Pitchers got to go in the
Mhm.
bullpen.
Not to mention you have to get there 8 hours before then to do early BP, optional early
Optional BP,
BP,
optional.
optional. And then you maybe look at film and then you eat
Hmm.
and you're all, I mean, of course you're hanging out, you're having fun, but like literally on a 3 o'clock game, you're there at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
probably,
No.
maybe 10.
And then that's when
So
everyone's in the locker room. They put the music on, everyone's getting ready. Honestly, that's the fun part. When you're
that is the
home
fun
and you're in
part.
the locker room getting ready, you see it on TikTok all the time or Instagram reels where it's like, I don't even like going out. I only like getting ready with the girls. Like, that's the equivalent to softball players.
So true. And then our final no dumb question of the episode is, can you go to the bathroom during the game?
You can, but you need to time it
You
up
can't.
well. You need to
You
time it
gotta
well.
time it
All
up.
right. So if I'm up to bat and I'm like, okay, I really need to go, but then I'm the last out, then I have to rush to get my gear on, and I'm like squeezing the cheeks behind home plate. So then I'm like, all right, 3 outs. You're like, yeah, throw him back to the pitcher real fast, like let's go. But like everyone's like, she's hype, and
Hmm.
I'm like, I just gotta go to the bathroom. And then you run into the bathroom. That's probably the time you can go when you just finish your at bat. There's 9 people behind you, but you got to make sure you're quick because you could go back on defense in 3 outs.
Remember travel ball having to like run to the concession stand and it's hot and you're like asking people to go in front of them because you're like, hey, I'm playing right now.
I know. And then it's just like
Oh,
the sweat on the back of the legs. And then
oh, all
the
right.
no
Sorry,
AC.
everyone. Sorry, sorry, everybody.
The no AC
We're
in
trying to
the
give you next
bathrooms.
level access here. Next level access into life.
Unfiltered. We said that in the beginning of the
Unfiltered.
episode. You're going to get us unfiltered.
And speaking of unfiltered and the questions you all might be having out there, let's go to our listener questions. So we got a ton of listener questions. We really enjoy these. So please, please, please leave a comment under this video, or if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, leave a comment or a question. And of course, if you know us, text us, ask us these questions. We would love to answer them. So
Mhm.
this is actually from the Spotify. This is a Q&A portion of our Spotify. If you're on there, rate us 5 stars while you're there. But the question is the impact of social media on recruiting. For
Ooh.
years, coaches always warned against athletes and what they posted. Now, with NIL deals, it's almost rewarded.
Yeah.
Question mark.
Yeah, that is a slippery slope that I also tend to fall in sometimes. But you want to be careful with your social media. Obviously, you shouldn't be posting things that are one illegal. Don't do it, young softball players. And
What's
two,
illegal? Oh,
I mean, like
oh, like drinking?
drinking. Yeah, you shouldn't.
Okay.
Even when you're over 21, I don't
Yeah.
think you should be having drinks in your photos. It's just unprofessional. Also, it's so hard because like Livy Dunn, we talked about her last episode. Like she became famous because she's a gorgeous girl. Like she own it. Like I love that she's
Hmm.
owning it. But if you're not at her status and you're posting photos like that, it sucks. It really sucks. Again, this is my issue with society. It's not really softball, it's society. That
Yeah.
you're looked at differently if you don't have the same amount of followers because you're posting in that way. But on recruiting wise, I mean, I kind of like to think about it like, are your parents going to be okay if you see this? And if the answer is yes, then I think for sure go post for it. But if you're like, no, I don't want my dad seeing that, then odds are you shouldn't be posting it.
And recognizing that it's going to be there forever. And I would also just say that use those platforms to brand the best parts of yourself, the parts that you want to stick behind forever. And whatever that means, whether that's family, whether that's relationships, whether that's hard work, which is a little tricky as well.
Mhm.
I understand why recruits post videos of themselves working out and doing things because it almost feels like it's kind of like groupthink. Like if other people are doing it, you need to do it. I also don't know how coaches feel about that, so I cannot speak to that at all.
Recruiting is so different now these days, especially
Yeah.
with the teams that I coach when I go back home. It's like before I like never used my Twitter for softball. Now it's like you have a whole account just for softball. You're posting your games, you're posting your workouts, like you said. So it's like a whole new world out there.
And that I think was sprouted based on COVID and
Hmm.
coaches' inability to go out and recruit as much. And so I think it's an amazing thing for players who maybe could slip under the cracks to post game footage. And maybe that's the one eye that you get on that video. And now you're on the radar of a team. But I would hesitate to post a pointless, like, hey, I'm working hard video. Unless it's
Yeah.
like actual content that coaches want to see. Like if you're lifting 300 pounds, post that for sure. But if it's like you're doing ladders and box jumps just to say, hey coaches, I'm working hard, it I think it sometimes for coaches can come across as inauthentic. And
Hmm.
that's what you need to have at the forefront if you're doing social media, is try to be as authentic as you possibly can. And I think it's probably different for every coach, right? Like younger coaches probably understand that world, whereas older coaches might not understand that as much. So I would say just the impact of it is ever changing. So just keep your kind of eye on the pulse of how things are moving. I know that's difficult, but yeah,
Hmm.
be proud of yourself, brand yourself in the best way you can. Our next question comes from a former teammate, Dom Salinas, who is now a mental strength coach. She's studying to be a doctor in psychology. And so if anyone wants to reach out to her, she mentors people and helps teams as well. But she asked a really good question that I would love for us to talk about. And it is, how does Duke prioritize mental health? Because this is not a part of the question, but because it is such a hot topic in college athletics right now, and a lot of teams claim to make it a priority. But she was wondering, how does Duke prioritize mental health?
Yeah. Well, things haven't really changed since you left, so it's about the same. We have about every 2 weeks a sports psychologist who comes to our team and gives us like an hour session, like whole team included, no coaches, and just how can we build our team trust? How can we build our team chemistry? All any problems that we might have, and we go and we're able to talk to her. Shout out Stephanie. We also have like a sports psychologist, like just department that we're able to go and see psychologists, have therapy sessions whenever we want. We can sign up. And I think there's just so many people here that you can talk to it. They don't even have to have the title. And everyone here wants to help you out.
I could not agree more from my experience too. And a lot of colleges talk the talk, but
Hmm.
Duke walks the walk. The late Greg Dale, who was our sports psychologist while I was there, was a massive mentor and one of the most amazing people I've ever had in my life. And without him, Duke softball is not where it is today. I
Mm-mm.
am not the woman I am today. And so, as far as how Duke prioritizes mental health, it is at the forefront of everything we do. And also, it is welcomed by Coach Young as well.
I mean, the coaching staff this year is very accepting. A mental health day, if I was to just go and be like, Coach, I'm not feeling it, she's just like, what's going on? I tell her, she's like, all right,
And we're so thankful for Duke, so grateful that they have
I love
prioritized.
it.
And we hope that other schools do the same and they follow suit. I would love to hear if any current players are listening or watching, please let us know how your schools are prioritizing mental health. Our next listener question comes from a former teammate as well, Kylie Caulfield, who we answered one of her questions last week, but she is a coach of a youth team right now. And so if you are one of Kylie's players, thank you so much for tuning in. But this question is for you all, or the answer is for you all. Think back to when you were a kid and had the dream of playing college softball. What was the biggest factor to help you make your dream a reality?
I think it was just constantly working. Around eighth grade, I found a really good trainer. Shout out Chris De La Rosa. I found him and our personalities just stuck and he really honed in. And like I had bad days. I had days where I did not want to be there. I was moody. I was upset with my performance. But he reminded me, hey, like if you want to get to where you're going to be and where you have the potential to be, you need to stick through these. You need to stick through the hard days, stick through those hard moments, and just continue to work and it'll pan out. And I think for young players, when you have a coach or finds a coach that just really connects, really puts their time into you, then that's when you start seeing the growth. And that's when you start like, wow, I can do this. And they will help you. You need to lean on your village.
Yeah, I could not agree more about leaning on your village. And I think for me, the biggest factor was a match between me innately wanting it for as long as I can remember, but also it would not have been possible without the people in my life, without my parents who drove me everywhere, without youth coaches, Coach Tut, if you're listening, always being willing to throw me front toss, always being willing to work with me. I can name about 15 other youth coaches that I had that were invested in me. My parents were invested with their time, their money. Not only do you need the innate, want and desire to play at the next level, and that's you can't get there without that, because you're going to have hard days, but you also need to be thankful and grateful and lean into your village as much as you can.
I cannot agree more.
Our final listener question is, as we begin the high school softball season, are there any daily team bonding building activities that you can think of that really impacted you both in high school, travel, or in college, that helped emphasize the importance of commitment and trust among the team? So this comes from my former travel coach, who's currently a high school coach. So a really good thing for youth coaches to do is to have your team create a mantra, and have that mantra, like Duke has one every single year, but have that mantra be from working from top to bottom, what you want at the end of the year. Do you want to win a state championship? Do you want to win a district title? Do you want to win PGF, right? And then kind of trickling your way down and figuring out what on a daily basis do you need to do to put yourself in the best position to win that title, or whatever it might be. And creating a mantra that embodies that entire kind of tree of a strategy. And so that everyone is reminded every day. And it also cannot come from the coaches. That is, coaches can be a part of this process. They can be writing stuff down as the players are saying it, but the players all have to be bought into the mantra. That has been the most impactful thing for me as an athlete, was to have one of those mantras to always lean on. For example, in high school, ours was moonshot. It's a moonshot to win the championship, but we believe, and that's all that matters. But yeah, that's what impacted me the most.
I want to add on to that, because I like how you said like every team has to have one. So for us at Duke, like every year we don't have the same motto. It's a different motto. And it's because when one person leaves, the team changes, the chemistry changes, no matter how many returners come back. So it's a new team, new motto, new mission. This year for us, we are unleash. I think last year, like we mentioned before, a lot of seniors left. We're like, oh, not sure if we're going to be good. And this year, it's like we already proved what we can do. Now it's just unleash. Like at this point, there's nothing holding us back. So every high school team, every travel ball team, get together, get with your teammates, try to figure out what you want to be.
I love that. Well, folks, thank you so much for listening, watching, viewing, and subscribing. Remember, you can follow us at SB Speakeasy so you don't miss any of the action. Wherever you get your podcast, if you could just show us some love, comment, like, rate us 5 stars, that would mean the world. Keep an eye out for that bonus episode with 2 professional softball players and former teammates coming out in the next couple of weeks. Thank you so much again for listening, watching, viewing, and subscribing. For Kelly, I'm Raine, and we'll see you next Wednesday on Softball Speak Easy. Peace.